is Katski.
Hi, this is Anya, and this is
What's Your Takeaway?
What's Your Takeaway is an exploration of ideas, insights, and inspiration. It is your food for thought.
And here, we peel the onion and unravel the beauty and importance of introspection. Hi, gang!
Hello, welcome to episode
4.
Dun, 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 dun.
Is it episode 4?
Yes, I think so.
Because
yes,
yeah,
is.
yeah. And we have a very special guest.
Ay, 5 na daw.
Shit, sorry. Thank you. It's a
thank
good
you.
thing that we have a director.
We have our director.
Yeah, so today we have a very special. This is episode 5, and today we have a very, very special guest, and I'm so excited.
Yes. But here in our space, we let the guests do the honors of introducing themselves. I feel like there's no other person who can do justice in introducing yourself except yourself.
Yeah,
right?
and sometimes anyway, we introduce somebody and it could be like over the top or like you get uncomfortable. So better if it's just you. How do you want to introduce yourself?
Welcome to What's Your Takeaway, Myka
Arnado, yay!
Hey, I'm Myka Arnado. I'm a graphic designer / art director based in Cebu, Philippines. I worked with brands such as Uniqlo, Adidas, Nike, and artists like, say, Kill the Noise, Crossfaith in Japan, and Linkin Park. But to do that spiel without the name dropping, I do graphic design and art direction for street fashion and music primarily. And off work, I dedicate time to supporting and advocating for Cebu's creative industries.
There you
Yay.
go. And I'm proud to say that she's working on my next album's
So exciting.
art.
And we got a sneak peek of that, which is beautiful. I know Myka from since school, since high school. So the way I perceive her is this kid in a school uniform, our simple, modest, pure, and chaste green uniform.
Oh dear.
But, even from high school, she's always been very creative and stood out because, she's always, been very much embracing her identity. And we have a lot to learn from that today.
Yes.
So, Myka, our opening question usually is just for our listeners and for us to also have like a context or a background from since you were a child. What's the origin of when you started practice introspection?
I see. So honestly, I was around for an earlier recording and I started thinking about this answer and I was like, how am I going to approach this? There's so many frameworks and angles that I can approach this, and how am I going to choose to convey this in my own episode? So I'd like to start with a very general definition of it as being like some sort of examination of one's own emotional and artistic processes, maybe something like that. So in that sense, I've always been introspective. I'm a person who lives in their head most of the time. I live in my head more than I live in real life. So I've always imagined that's how I didn't come to be. I was always like that. So I suppose we can start like when I was young, and I was my brother and sister. They're big music freaks. My brother loved 80s glam rock, hair metal bands like Guns N' Roses, Skid Row.
Right.
And my sister was into grunge, so a lot of Pearl Jam and Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time looking at album covers, and I was wondering, why are the album covers like this? They don't make sense. So for example, sure, I'm looking at Guns N' Roses, an album cover, and there's Guns N' Roses. Fine, I get it. Yeah, but then I look at, say, right? And very literal. And I look at a cover for, say, the Smashing Pumpkins Siamese Dream. Okay, Siamese Dream. There are 2 girls in front of there, but they're not Siamese twins. Why? Should it be Siamese twins instead?
Right.
So I started wondering about the how and why of like creative choices and how these affected me and how I processed them. I only started understanding this as I got older and got in more sophisticated education through like college, through literature, cinema, and design. But because of that, shall we say, start as to like when I look at something, I look at it, I see how I emotionally react to it, how I process it. And I realize, oh, I'm processing it this way. So what does that say about the thing and what does it say about me? So that I feel led me to become, I suppose, a more empathetic designer because how I react to certain things informs the way I design for other people.
Amazing.
Yes.
Okay.
So even
Okay,
if you say that you're mostly up in your head and that's kind of what makes you introspective from your story, and how old were you then when you were observing how these album covers look like?
I say pre-teens.
Oh wow,
Yes.
very early.
Yeah, because we didn't have the internet then. What else did you have to do? If you didn't have
Same.
cable TV, you'd just
That's
like
true.
read whatever you have at home.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would go through like my brother and sister's stuff and like this looks interesting, but I have no idea how to understand it.
What struck me the most is even if you say you're up in your head, looking at these album covers elicited so much emotion in you, and it kind of brought you back to yourself. You said as you look at these album covers, it made you wonder why you were feeling a certain way about how they look like. And so that sparked, I am assuming that sparked something in you to kind of challenge yourself in the way you perceive things. And so what were you feeling when you were looking at these album covers, and how did that lead you back to yourself?
I see. So for example, I noticed that for the things that I did not understand, like say for album covers that were not literal. Let's say take another example for Tori Amos's Little Earthquakes.
Oh, I remember that cover. That's an awesome cover.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a photo of Tori Amos inside a box.
Yeah.
And there's a little piano, and the title of the album is Little Earthquakes. And this is not literal. I don't get it. So as a kid, I was like,
Where's the earthquake?
yeah, where's the
And there's a
earthquake?
missing piece in this
Right?
visual.
So it made me wonder, is it like a lack in my education that I do not understand this? Is this part of the direction or the messaging that the mystery is part of the mystique and the mystery of the art direction, or at least the metaphorical meaning of this is what it's trying to convey, and we're not doing anything literal here. So it made me wonder, so maybe the way I think, there are dimensions to this. What I'm feeling might not be like I'm upset right now. Sure, I'm upset, but what does that say about me? So when I listen to an album, I listen to the music, but I also absorb the universe of the art direction of the album art and everything. And I felt it so intensely to the point that I'd get depressed. Like Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, ironically. That really made me super depressed as a kid.
Infinitely sad.
Infinitely sad. And that was like, is the art doing this to me? Is the music doing it to me? Or am I reacting to it? Is it listing this from that? But what is it? Is this a conversation between the art and me?
Yeah.
Or is the art just telling me that I am like this? So I suppose the direction I'd like to like open up here is that how our contemplation of art and design is like a mirror to how we feel, or at least helps us in processing what we feel and how we are thinking about the way we feel.
I'm just curious. So we were talking about the music of all these artists. So it's still art, right? But when it comes to designing for like commission work for big brands, what's the difference then?
Okay. This is a
like
very...
what's the process like? Because like, okay, this is like an external thing. Like it's no longer you. It's like, what's this? right? Like that's just my imagination. So how is the process?
Okay. So this is a very big discussion because some people would say art and design are the same, but I'm someone who thinks that art and design are not the same. Design is creative problem solving. Art is expression. Although
Right.
sometimes
Love
they
that.
do
Yeah, I love that.
they
too. Yeah.
intersect.
Yeah.
The process at which you go through and the direction you take when taking these on, they're pretty different.
Right. I
So,
can imagine. Yeah.
for example, a design project with me starts with the brief, creative brief, and we find the problem, or at least something we need to make. We need to make an album cover. And usually, when it's an album cover, we try to think of the best way to communicate the feeling, the music, and the identity of the artist.
Right.
And as a designer, that's my primary goal, to communicate that in the way they want it to be communicated. If you were, say, asking an artist or an illustrator to do that, you might have to go with this person's style first, because you engage them for their style, for their vision, and you're not asking them to make a design. You're not asking them to come up with a solution to your problem. You're commissioning them for their take on the thing.
Right.
So the difference here then is that I disappear when I do a design because I feel like the solution is more important than me making myself known.
Wow.
Yeah. So when it comes to, say, a t-shirt, since we already talk about music, so just to give other people an idea, like hey Mike's, you make t-shirt for the next season.
Merch.
Merch, right? So I'm like, okay, what do you want? So sometimes they're, just go with it. Oh,
That's, I think, a harder,
Even harder
task with a very specific brief, very ambiguous.
Exactly, like, oh my gosh, shoot for the stars. You can do anything. But with that, at least there's a trust in that they know that I will study their brand
Yeah.
and I will work within the parameters of their brand and their history. So what they have done is a jumping off point of how I can take their future designs to, and so on. And I think I covered. I think I answered it.
But
yes.
you think so when you said that art is kind of expression and like design is problem solving. So would it be safe to say that when it comes to design it's less emotional?
If you need to be emotional, if you need to be for the designer, they don't need to be emotional, but
Right.
they need to be empathetic of the
Right.
emotions they want to convey or elicit. Because if it's just very analytical and cold, you're not going to get the emotional impact you want, and therefore you cannot get the action that you want to get from whoever you're designing for. So if you're, say, making something just very clinical and you check off all the objectives,
Okay.
but it does not have a soul, would people really will that resonate with people?
Yeah,
Because you'll notice that some pieces of design, they're not technically nice designs, but they're very soulful and emotional.
And that's what sticks.
Yeah, that's what sticks, right?
The
Yeah.
soulful
'Cause-
ones, they're the ones
exactly,
that stick.
and that's what really gets people to react to it and who knows, buy or
and interact with whatever they
Exactly.
see. Yeah.
So what was that again?
I'm asking if it was less.
Yes,
Yeah, less
that's
emotional.
Yeah, less
Yes.
emotion.
I
The design part.
want to pick up from what you're sharing, because I think, as you said, your signature mark in the way you do things is empathy. You know, the practice of empathetic design. And I think that goes hand in hand, whether it is you're practicing your art or you're doing design. That's what makes you different. I mean, I guess in marketing terms, that's what sets you apart, right? And from what you were sharing earlier, when going back to like album covers and how that kind of that observation from how an album cover, the visual image and how it connects back to you and what you're feeling, and then goes back to like how you create art, right? But it seems like there's a cycle there, that
Conversation, yes.
a conversation with yourself coming from that visual image, and you embody the soul of not just the cover but the content. And I was wondering, because you set the art and design apart, while you work on designs for other companies, big brands all over the world, how are you able to practice your art and go back to go back to what you were talking about how, yeah, like you're able to embody that the lyrics of the song, and then it spoke to who you are and what you're feeling then. How are you then able to express that?
I was so scared you'd ask me something like this because I honestly don't know, and I'm in the process of thinking about it because I don't know what my art would look like. But I guess to have a more concrete answer, in around 2017, I started making new media art. This is not, I wouldn't call it art, but it's just referred to as art for the sake of,
Creating.
Yeah, creating, and it's just convenient to call it glitch art because it's something you make. I only ended up making that because the process of making glitch art, which for our friends and listeners, I just literally take digital data and mess it up, and it breaks and it looks. That's my art, whatever. Yeah.
Is it like a, sorry, I'm not very well versed with this. But is it like a hodgepodge of like images, and it's like just a collage of stuff?
It's like, say, if you've ever tried opening an image on like your computer and it breaks and it glitches
it's
out.
Warped. It looks kind of warped.
Yeah, it breaks.
Right.
You can do that intentionally. So that's what I've been doing like around 2017.
Yeah, I remember those times, like the glitch art all the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did that because it was very chaotic. It was different from the very rigid and mindful practice of design. So in that sense, the art that I made was just seeking chaos and randomness because you're destroying stuff. You can't really plan the outcome. So in that sense, I enjoyed that.
Right.
But moving forward, now that I'm trying to learn how to illustrate and try to find what my art is, which is not design, I am still not there. I don't know what it looks like. I would like to see that in 2024. I thought I'd see it in 2023, but I did not.
Yeah.
So hopefully
okay.
next year I'll have an answer for you.
Cool. In your phase of intentionally creating chaos out of randomness, how does that relate to how you were feeling at the time? Because it's an expression of how you're feeling.
I always feel chaotic, but it's chaos within a box because we are not allowed to lose our shit, right?
Yeah.
As human beings, as adults. So in that sense, the controlled chaos of the glitch art really reflects me, of course, but not in the sense that it does not. Glitch art, I feel like it doesn't have meaning because you're just working with random things. I'm not taking the photos myself. I mean, I could have taken videos myself, but I didn't have time.
Yeah.
Wasn't really interested, couldn't spend the effort to do that. So what I was making was not meaningful in the sense that it did not have intentional meaning.
Right.
But how did that correlate with how I was feeling inside? I suppose it did not correlate. So I suppose we often think that if you feel a certain way, it's a one-to-one, right?
Yeah.
Like the artist is drawing sad pictures. The artist must be sad.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's always kind of the impression, right,
Yeah.
on the outside.
So I suppose I'm here to say that what the person makes is not necessarily a reflection of what they make.
Yeah.
Or at least there's a lot of it is also convenience and what opportunities they have at the moment.
Right. It's you just want to create, and that's
Right.
what's
Yeah.
Right.
accessible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It
And
doesn't
it's
have to be like some deep meaning.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
not that
that's
deep,
true.
bro.
Yeah, it's not that deep, bro. But when you were sharing that, it reminded me of this Japanese philosophy of wabi-sabi. I felt as if you were trying to find sense in whatever that's chaotic or random, and then making it beautiful in your own right, because that's how it seems like. Yeah, at least from my perspective.
I would not reckon or imply intentionality in the glitch art because there really wasn't. Because that's really what I didn't want to do outside of design. Because design, it's all about, I need to get this across. It was very constricting, and I really need to convey certain things. And I have to make it meaningful, not just in the execution sense, not in just the emotional sense, but meaningful in the sense that we need to work with this cultural agreed upon meanings of different symbols and imagery. It's very academic in that sense for me. I just wanted to be free of that.
So glitch art gave you that liberty.
I'm just puking stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and that's very liberating if you're very rigid in your practice. You just want to just make shit.
It's also very symbolic also. It's like letting go.
Letting go and just puking.
Yeah.
Emotional and I could intellectual puke. Emotional in the sense that you can be puking anything. It doesn't have to be I'm just puking my sad feelings. I'm just puking anything.
Just puking. I'm drunk. I'm puking.
Right? Exactly. That's why drinking then puking is very cathartic because everything is outside of yourself.
I was about to say that. Like, it must have been very cathartic to just release in a manner that there's no constraints, there's no brief, there's no restrictions. And sometimes the purge allows us to reset, you know, because you kind of empty your mind, you empty your heart, and as you said, there's really no meaning, no intention whatsoever. It's just to release to vomit, to purge. There.
That's amazing. Yeah, I
beautiful.
love that. I love that. Purge. Puke.
And I was also curious about how you're able to make a profession out of your love for art and also your passion for design. And I think it's such a discipline to be able to distinguish both and, set up a fine line, because I think for me, that's also what makes you professional. And that's also what allowed you to be able to serve all these clients. So what was your journey like, coming from that curiosity of that album cover and how it wasn't making sense to actually creating album covers for big names in the music industry?
I have the perfect story for this.
Okay, let's go.
This is kind of long. Spans 2 decades.
Okay.
We have time.
Yes, we have time. All right. So the story begins when I was 14.
Okay.
And I was 14, was very into music. My favorite band at the time was Deftones. Okay. And I was just living them. I mean, when you're that young and if you're like really focused on something, that's like your life, your identity, your everything. So Deftones was my everything at that moment. And with the consumption of music, I also felt like I needed to make something. So I also end up making like fan work, fan designs, fan art. At that point, I did not know what you would call it. So for the sake of this discussion, I'd call it fan work. And back then, for younger listeners, there was no social media. So if you wanted to keep up with your favorite band, you'd visit their website every day.
Right.
And that's what I did with Deftones. I visited their website every day. And one day they just said, hey, we have a contest for any kind of fan art, fan designs that's Deftones related. And I was 14 and cocky. Yes. So I just sent in my stuff and I won.
Woohoo.
Wow. So I was like,
At 14. When your world was all
so
about
small,
them.
right? And so small. I had no idea that I was up against professionals, maybe.
Yeah.
So I was just a cocky kid. So I sent in my work. I won.
Wait, did they know you were 14 years old?
No. No, they didn't ask you for your age. They just contacted me and asked for my mailing address and sent me a signed CD.
Right.
Yeah, it was just like, whoa, I made it. Yeah, so that was a really high point for me. But I didn't even think of design as a career option. It's just something I did because I wanted to. But by 15, the Deftones was making their third album, White Pony, and they had another contest. But this time it wasn't for art. It was for just give us a reason why we should send you a street team kit. Because back then, that's how you promoted albums, right? You had a street team to go neighborhoods and promote the local music.
Right. Yeah.
So I told them, I'm from Cebu. You don't know what air that is? You got to send it to me so I can promote your stuff here. So they sent that to me too. And when White Pony was released, it was very, shall we say, formative, not in just the music, but the graphic design. It didn't look like anything to me back then. Because I wasn't that exposed yet, of course. But the graphic design really spoke to me. But it was not literal at all. Everything was cerebral. And I couldn't get it. But I felt it and I understood it. And that really made an impression to me. But anyway, I got the stuff. I was happy. And that was it. But fast forward 20 years. That's the year 2020. So White Pony was released in 2000. So 2020. The first year of, when the pandemic started.
Yes.
So Carla Adawan, my old bandmate, she posted on Instagram, hey, happy 20th anniversary, White Pony. And I was like, oh my God, I got so emotional because it was such a very important album for me.
Yeah.
And
Life-changing for you.
and I dug up the stuff they sent me for the White Pony release 20 years back. I was like, oh, I still have it. So I wanted to post it on Instagram and be like super emotional about it because this meant a lot to me. Oh my God. I just wanted to share. And it was the height of the pandemic, right?
The essence of your youth.
Right? Yeah, and I just really wanted to let it out because everyone was feeling bad in 2020. So my Instagram account is mostly my work. And if I were to post someone else's work, I needed to give credit. Surely. So I'm not going to claim credit for whoever designed that. So I looked up designer, White Pony. And the name came up, Frank Maddox. So apparently Frank Maddox has designed the album covers of Deftones from White Pony to the present. So graphic designer, art director for Deftones, for Linkin Park as well. All of the Linkin Park stuff, some Green Day stuff, and a lot of that. And then I checked him on Instagram. Oh, he's there. So I can credit him properly. I tag him. I tag him on the post so that everyone knows it's his work. And then, lo and behold, when I posted it, he followed me back. Like, oh my God, the guy who designed the very seminal, very formative graphic design work followed me back. And that was sorry. We can end this story here. We can right? We can totally end that here. But no, in my Instagram, I occasionally post personal work, professional work, and sometimes Frank would like them and leave comments like, love this, fire emoji. Like, oh my God, stop, I noticed it. I cannot believe this is happening. But come 2021, we all thought the pandemic would last 1 year.
Right.
And by like early 2021, we were like feeling bad because this is gonna last longer than we thought. And I felt that too, to the point that when I work, I'm always listening to podcasts. And I ran out of podcasts to listen to and was down. How am I gonna work? So I realized Frank mentioned that he guested in some podcasts. And I wondered, okay, I might as well listen to the stuff Frank was, guested on. So I did. And I listened to the episodes he guested on. And it turns out Frank, before he designed for Deftones, was also a fan of Deftones, made fan art for Deftones before he became the person who designed for them.
Yeah.
And that really moved me.
Yeah.
Because, wow, this is just like me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that really pushed me to finish the couple of projects I was stuck on. So so that really at least made my early 2021 better. But lo and behold, I get a DM. Can you guess who that is?
Frank?
It was Frank.
No kidding.
It was Frank. And it's like, hey, Myka, are you interested in designing something for us?
Wow.
Wow. And
I'm having goosebumps.
Right? And I was like, oh my God, yes, of course.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was for. So he told me, okay, I'll just email you the details. And it turns out it was something for Linkin Park.
Wow. Amazing.
And I was like, oh my God.
So this was just recently.
Yeah.
2021, very recently, yes.
That's so
right,
cool.
crazy. But sadly, I didn't get it. It didn't get approved. It's still paid work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's professional. It gets paid. But if it doesn't get approvals, it doesn't get made.
Yeah.
But the project, I think, got canceled as well. So, okay, I was felt bad a little. But just the fact that the universe aligned for me for this to happen, I am grateful. I don't care if I didn't get it. I tried my best. That's fine.
Yeah.
But immediately, Frank contacted me again.
Okay.
So we designed another thing, then another thing, and it became a monthly thing. So I ended up working several times with Frank, the Frank Maddox, for a whole year. And up until now, I still don't know how I got to work with the person that designed one of my favorite
I want to clap. This is like clap. This is like clap worthy.
Yeah, so that's it. I hope the story ends with me designing for Deftones, putting it out there, universe.
Yes,
Help me
let's
manifest
manifest
this.
and claim that in
Yes.
2024. I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
that would be coming full circle, if
Right?
it happens.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I did very unashamedly ask him, Frank, if ever it comes to the point that you need help with something Deftones, please,
Yeah.
please, you know how much it means to me, please. But yeah,
But I mean, I'm just clapping for the 14-year-old girl in you.
Yeah, right,
That's,
exactly.
here you are making your dreams come to life. I mean, you didn't even dream of that. It wasn't even in your wildest dreams.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
amazing. Yeah, I didn't know this story.
I mean, I'm just stunned.
I just saw that she was doing some work. I'm like, wow, okay.
This is kind of the good side of social media.
Yeah.
and,
it is indeed.
and putting yourself
Yeah,
out there.
that's true.
Yeah. I'm all about like the courage of how you're able to put yourself out there. Like when you decided to do that, because prior to Frank Maddox contacting you, you already had your kind of portfolio up on Instagram and all that. What's the process behind that, or what made you decide to like share your art?
Great question, because I was someone who never posted anything online because I didn't want to be judged. Honestly, I really couldn't do it until up until 2017. I couldn't even get around making my own website. Everything went into Tumblr, and you know how Tumblr is so siloed and isolated. It's just like
And you felt safe for you.
Yeah, it's a vacuum in there, and no one will find you on Tumblr.
Yeah.
But what triggered me was coincidentally the glitch art from 2017, because I was part of that collective of other artists experimenting with technology to come up with artistic expression. I felt like I also needed to up and hype my own work in a way to hype them up too. So I actually posted my glitch art on a different account on Instagram, and I started doing that, and that was fine. And I realized I'm doing this for my glitch art anyway. Why not put up my designs on another account?
Yeah.
Yeah, which made sense. Which
Right.
was hard because if you're starting out posting, no one will like your stuff. I mean, it's just so disheartening, and you'll feel like it's not good. Blah
You're
blah
putting
blah.
out something that's not getting the response.
Right? And it's just hard on anyone who's just starting out. But coincidentally, at around 1,000, maybe 1.5 followers, I got this DM and say, hey, this is Ken. We think your style would work with a project for Nike we're working on. Are you interested? And I'm like, huh?
How do you even know it's legit? You know,
Right?
if somebody slides in your DM.
Right? It's like, is this a new template for scams?
Exactly.
Right? So I looked this guy up, and he was part of an agency called Royal Club, and they've worked with other artists in executing different campaigns. And I suppose like, okay, they must be real.
Yeah.
Like why do they want to work with me? I'm just a nobody online, random person in a random country. So anyway, they sent me the brief and they asked me, okay, if you're interested, you can send us a pitch back. And I was like, what's a pitch back? Is it a pitch you send back?
That's also kind of how I understood it.
right?
Very literal.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, but doing speculative work is bad. We don't do that as designers. And I was like,
Yeah.
but if I pass on this chance to work on Nike, might as well make the investment, right? So
Yes.
anyway, I just made my thing. I sent it back, and they told me, "Hey, Nike really likes what you made. You got it." And
Wow.
they told me, and I realized, you mean I was against other people? I didn't realize I was competing against other folks. Like, oh my God, thank God I didn't know that when I was working on it. Right.
It would have been
Yeah,
different. Yeah.
right.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Right. So to answer your question, the designs I was putting out at that time really did match the style they were working with for the Shanghai Marathon 2018. So by putting the work you want to get more of on the platform you think your clients will be on is the best way to reach them. Because even if they don't give you the work at that point in time, they will know that you have the skill set and this style, and they will refer to you at a later time. So that also happened with me with the band called CrossFit in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working on like the 7th thing for them. It's insane. It's literally they just DM me. Hi, we like your work. Can you work with us?
Yeah.
Yeah, and for Adidas as well, the creative director was not Adidas. We with these things, you're working with an agency that works with the brand.
Right.
Yeah. So the director at that agency said, "I've been keeping track of your work for a while."
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Blown.
So can we get on a call just to get to know each other, because we might have work for you in the future. So that's what I want to get across, that you continue putting up work even though you're not getting work yet, because by being out there and being easy to contact and being identified with a certain style and technique or a niche, people will remember you. So it's not that you need to get the work right now. It's just being visible and being out there.
But were these projects even like in your wish lists in the past?
I was just
No,
wondering the same
not-
thing.
Not at all. Honestly, my goals is just paying the bills. I mean, I'm not an ambitious person at all. I mean, when I got the first Nike job in 2018, I was like, wow, that was a fluke. That's never going to happen again. And the year after that was Uniqlo.
Then
The year
Adidas.
after that, Adidas.
Yeah. Wow.
It just kept on coming. Like, isn't this am I just really lucky? I mean, okay, I know you're going to ask me, is this imposter syndrome? I don't know. But no, when someone asked me, what is your dream project? I mean,
I was
besides,
about to
right?
ask you that.
Yeah, I mean, besides Deftones, I don't have one, because I don't even imagine myself working for big brands. I mean, but that's a different... Regardless of the size of the brand or the project, I just do my best.
Yeah.
And I just want to do my best and pay my bills. That's
Right.
really all I want to do.
Yeah.
So if I get a job that's also prestigious, that's a bonus.
Right.
Yes.
But
That's
it's amazing how you're
amazing.
able to,
Yeah.
attract that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think it's also very brave that you never stop putting yourself out there, because that led you to all these projects.
Yeah. Talking about all of these projects
Yeah.
so far, well, starting from that 14-year-old girl up to now, I mean, what's your biggest takeaway so far? I mean, what have you learned?
Honestly, I can talk about takeaways for like 2 hours. I can lecture you on this.
We'll probably have to have
Yes.
a part 2, part 3 with you.
But I suppose, top of my head, what I can say right now is there, for me, very important things as a designer specifically. I cannot speak to what it is to be a musician or a fashion designer or an artist. But as a graphic designer, I feel like 2 things are very important for us right now. One is resourcefulness, because we work with most of the time very little resources, little time, little budgets, because we're not in a developed country. So when we are able to work with very little and make a lot, when we are given the budget and the resources, we are going to do amazing.
Right.
So when you feel bad that you only have one photo to work with and it's not even good, that's fine, because at one point in time, you'll probably get a whole photo shoot to work with. Just consider it as like level 1 and you're getting to get better. And next one is intuition. Intuition in the sense that I didn't go to design school. I studied film in college. So I have no idea how design is taught in schools. So I navigate everything by intuition. So how I learn software, how I learn to work with clients, this is all just within me.
Yeah.
So if you feel that you don't have any of that, you can seek mentorship, of course. But if you're someone who has a very strong intuitive side, maybe it's good to start listening to that.
Wow.
Wait, I just need to ask this question. I'm just curious, because I really appreciate I think the clarity and the passion you have from since you were a child, and how, music has been such a huge influence and transformative in the way you live your life now. And kudos also to your siblings for being such good
For great
influence.
taste.
But
Great taste in music.
Yes.
I'm curious, like, what would you tell your 14-year-old self, given that
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
okay. Like, she kind
This
of
is a safe space.
I swear I'm gonna cry. I'm not wearing waterproof makeup right now. Honestly, things get better.
Uh-huh.
You'll get to do things you'll never imagine doing.
Wow.
You'll get to do. Honestly, if I told my 14-year-old self you'll be designing with the person who designed the Deftones stuff,
No.
Yeah.
she won't believe me. She, I mean,
She'd be like, get out of here.
yeah, fuck off.
Yeah, exactly.
If I don't believe you. But if I had to tell her in that sense, things get better. Oh, my voice is breaking.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, things get better. Just soldier on. Yeah.
I love
Yes.
that. Now I'm gonna cry.
Wow. I mean,
Amazing story, huh?
Thank you for trusting us with this story.
What about you, gang? What is your takeaway from all of this?
I asked you that question because my biggest takeaway is really the power of connecting to the child in you.
Yeah.
I'm in that space. I'm also feeling vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's just really I don't know how, I can't even articulate myself right now, but sometimes we grow up and we lose that I guess sense of bliss and that fire and that like innocence, that that freedom that 14-year-old had, like didn't care. I was just cocky.
Yeah.
You know, I
Don't
just-
care.
I'm just
It's just
I
you.
think that's the first time you put yourself out there and
yeah.
didn't give a fuck. You know,
Yeah.
like you just want to share the gifts and the talents and this overflowing abundance of obsession you had with this band that changed your life, and you put it out there, and I think you never left that 14-year-old. Like,
Yeah.
you know, just from all your stories now, I think you hold her hand and you just kept walking with her
Yeah.
until now. And so to me, that's my takeaway. Like, I feel like we have to, you know, we can't keep on protecting ourselves by wearing so many suits and so many masks.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the most courageous part of us is that child in us.
That's so true. Yep, that's so true.
That's my takeaway.
My takeaway would be the intuition part, because I'm the type who does not trust my intuition. Remember the previous episode that she was talking about inner knowing? It's the same thing for me.
Yes,
You
it
know,
is.
like trusting that, because there's so many. As an adult, you have so many. You put so many layers, and you don't listen to your true self anymore because you care about what others say.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, that's my takeaway, to actually start listening to the intuitive voice or trusting that too. Yeah, that's my takeaway.
You're so brave, Myka. I feel like you're so full of wisdom, even if you're super young. And thank you for
I'm not young.
thanks
Yeah.
for sharing your story. And
Thank you for sharing your
thanks
energy with us.
Your energy with
Yeah.
us. Thank
Kasky, Anya, thank you for having me.
This has been great. This was episode 5. Thank you so much, Myka, and
See you on the next episode.
see you on the next episode of What's Your Takeaway? Bye.